So there's this brand new report from MIT, and it's uncovered something, well, a huge mystery right in the middle of the whole AI revolution. It's a story packed with huge investments, really surprising failures, and a deep, deep divide that's separating the winners from, well, pretty much everyone else. Let's dive in and investigate what's really going on.
Okay, get this. Companies all over the world, they've dumped somewhere around $40 billion into generative AI. That's a massive, massive bet on the future of business.
But here's where the story gets absolutely wild. That same MIT report found that for 95% of them, the return on that insane investment is nothing. Zip, zilch. No measurable impact on the bottom line whatsoever.
And this is what the researchers are now calling the Gemini divide. It's this enormous gap between a tiny, tiny fraction of companies that are absolutely nailing it and the vast majority who are just stuck. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to dive deep and figure out what is really going on here.
So this all leads to the big $40 billion question, right? If all this cash is being thrown around, but almost nobody is seeing a return, where's it all going? And why is it failing so spectacularly?
All right, this chart right here, this is our first big clue. There's this massive drop-off. I mean, it's like falling off a cliff between just looking at an AI tool and actually using it every day. While 60% of companies are evaluating custom tools, only a tiny 5% ever get them fully baked into how they work. Researchers are calling this the pilot-to-production chasm.
And this quote from a CIO, man, it just perfectly sums up the frustration that's out there. It's not like they're not trying. Companies are dying to adopt this stuff, but the tools they're being sold just aren't cutting it. They feel like unfinished science projects, not real business solutions.
Okay, so that's the pilot-to-production chasm. But the reason these official projects are just stalling out, well, that's where this mystery gets even deeper. Because you see, AI is changing how we work. It's just not happening the way companies planned.
And that brings us to what's being called the shadow AI economy. And you got to see this disconnect. While only about 40% of companies have an official subscription to an LLM, a staggering 90% of employees are using their own personal AI tools like ChatGPT for their daily work. They're just solving their own problems, a lot of the time without IT even having a clue.
So here's the big paradox, right? The central question we have to answer. If employees are totally happy using AI on their own time, why are they straight up rejecting these super expensive, custom-built tools their companies are giving them? Now, if you ask the bosses, the executives, they'll give you these three reasons. They'll say people are resistant to new tools, they're worried about the quality of the answers, and the user experience is bad. But here's the thing. The MIT report says, nope, that's not it. Those are just the symptoms of a way bigger, deeper problem.
And here it is, the smoking gun, the real reason for this whole Gen AI divide. It's not about talent, it's not about data, it's something the report calls the learning gap.
And this data right here, it shows you exactly how this learning gap plays out in the real world. For the easy stuff, the quick tasks like drafting an email, yeah, AI has pretty much won. 70% of us would rather use it. But for the important stuff, the complex projects, the client work, no way. 90% of people are like, give me a human. There is this massive wall of distrust.
So what's with all the distrust? Why won't people use these fancy tools for work that actually matters? Well, it's because they're fundamentally kind of dumb. They don't learn from your feedback. They make you repeat yourself over and over. You have to give them all the context every single time. You can't really customize them to your specific workflow. And the minute you hit an edge case, they just break. They don't adapt. They have no memory. That is the learning gap.
Okay, so if that's the problem, how in the world do you fix it? Let's take a look at the playbook from that successful 5%. You know, the ones who are actually making it across this Gen AI divide.
Well, the first pattern that jumps out is pretty shocking. Companies that try to go it alone and build their own AI tools from scratch, they fail about 2/3 of the time. But the ones who team up, who form strategic partnerships with specialized vendors, they succeed 2/3 of the time. You are literally twice as likely to get it right by partnering up. And when you look at their playbook, you realize they have a totally different mindset. They're not just buying software off a shelf, they're partnering up to get a service. First, they demand really deep customization. Second, they don't care about vanity metrics. They benchmark everything on actual business outcomes. Third, they see their vendors as partners they can grow and evolve with. And finally, and this is huge, they empower their frontline managers to actually lead the charge.
And this This might be the most surprising finding in the entire report. See, all the hype, all the investment, it's all focused on the sexy front office stuff, sales and marketing. But the real money, the biggest ROI, it's coming from the boring old back office. Automating things like business process outsourcing or cutting down what you spend on agencies, that's where companies are saving a ton of cash.
So what's next on the horizon? For the companies that have cracked this code and made it across the divide, well, the game is already changing again. We're heading towards something called the agentic web.
Okay, this table breaks down the entire AI landscape for us. You've got customization on one axis and the ability to learn, or memory, on the other. Right now, most of the tools we use are stuck in that bottom left corner. They might be customized, but they have low memory. The future, the real sweet spot, is that top right quadrant, agentic workflows. These are systems that are both highly customized and have a powerful ability to learn and remember.
So the big takeaway here is that this is about way more than just getting better at writing prompts for one tool. The future is this interconnected agentic web, a whole ecosystem of autonomous systems that can learn, that can coordinate with each other, and that can actually act on our behalf.
And believe me, this future is coming at us incredibly fast. The report is basically sounding an alarm here. There's this very narrow window to get this right. Over the next 18 months or so, companies are going to start getting locked in with vendors whose systems are learning from their data. And by 2026, the cost of trying to switch away from a system that already knows your business inside and out, it's going to be almost impossible.
And that brings us right back to where we started with a really important question for you. As your own organization is pouring money into Gen AI, you've got to ask yourself, are you just buying more static tools that are probably doomed to fail? Or are you building partnerships for smart systems that can actually learn? Which side of the Gen AI divide are you on?